Hi, this is Amby from Board Game Blitz, and today I'm going to talk about my February games played, some highlights. I log my plays using BG Stats app, which links to Board Game Geek, and I track all of my plays. I wrote them all down here. So I played 52 plays of 23 games, I think, but I'm actually recording this on February 29th, and I'm playing at least 1 or 2 games tonight on stream, so it'll be a little bit more than that. This image will be updated with my final play counts and stuff, and I'll show you my final play count. But those games I'm not going to talk about in this video. I'm just talking about some highlights from the month, and those games, if you want to know more about them, you can watch the playthrough because that will be here on YouTube. But I did play a lot of games in February, even though it's a short month, so that's exciting. So first of all, I got a review copy of Murder Mystery Party, the Night Hunter game, which I played 3 out of 4 chapters of. This is a detective murder mystery story game. I'm going to talk about it on the podcast when I finish. I'm hoping to finish before we record this next podcast, so you'll be able to hear about my thoughts on the podcast, but it's a fun murder mystery in a game form. And other review copies I talked about on the podcast are Picture Perfect and Sherlock 13, which are both deduction games, so you can listen to the podcast for those. But I'm going to talk about 5 highlights that weren't review copies that I played. So first is a game with my kids, which is Disney, Mickey, and the Beanstalk. This is a children's game themed around, there's the giant, Mickey and the Beanstalk story, which is Jack and the Beanstalk, and you're trying to get the harp and food from the giant in the clouds and bring it down to the village. So the game is like spin and move, but the spinner like tells you what the giant does, and you don't have to move all the spaces, so it's not really spin and move, but it's a spinner. And then you're moving up this beanstalk. The board is like a 3D structure with a plastic beanstalk, and you're moving up, going around, getting things on the giant, but like the highlight for my kids is sliding down the beanstalk because the little figures have a gap in it that you like put on the beanstalk, and then it like spins around and goes down when you go back down to the village. And so they like doing that. But it was cool being able to play that by the rules with my kids. It's a cooperative game, and we lost the first time. And I think this was also the first time that my kids realized like what winning and losing is and like cared about it, because before I don't think they really understood that, because one of my kids was sad that we lost, and he's like, I want to play again. And so we played again the next day and we won. That was exciting, seeing them grow in gaming. Another game that's not new to me is Décorum. This was actually a review copy a long time ago, and I had played and talked about it on the podcast and lots of stuff. But I had been wanting to play this with Toby because it's a 2 to 4 player game, but there's a 2-player scenario. This is a cooperative deduction game where you're trying to decorate a house by placing and removing different colored items. And each person has different win conditions that they know secretly, and there's one solution that like satisfies everything. So I really like this game. I played it at 3 and 4 players, and I played some of the 2 players campaign with Crystal, but like I had wanted to play it with Toby because we used to play a lot of 2-player games together, and theoretically we could play the 2-player campaign together. So we finally played it on Valentine's Day, and we played a couple of the games, and I had fun, and I'm still not that far into the campaign, but I'm excited to play more. Then a few games my friends brought over. One was Voices in My Head, which is a game that was on my want to play list. It's themed around your voices, like different personalities inside a person's head who is like convicted of a crime and they're in a courtroom. So one person is actually the prosecutor. I played as the prosecutor, and everyone else is like different voices in the head. They're saying like, oh, I want you to be guilty, or like the guilty conscience, or like the one who wants to get away with it or something, I'm not sure. But everyone has different victory conditions. So on the board, there's a panel of a jury, and you put tokens on there to make them vote guilty or innocent. And so the prosecutor wants it to be mostly guilty, and then the different characters have secret conditions, either like they want like at least 3 guilty, or they want at least 2 innocents, or something like that. But the way you can control putting tokens out is the prosecutor plays like these cards that say different things are going to happen, but the person who controls that is one of the players, and there's this little like area control part on the board that's the brain with raised platforms, and each section is like a little circle. And each round, each player will put one token on one of the circles, but they push it through, kind of like a coin pusher game, like those games where you put the quarters in and it pushes back and forth, and then like no quarters will fall off. So these tokens are going to fill up the spaces, and then as you push more in later rounds, the other ones will fall off, so you can like push other people's off. So I had fun like pushing other people's off, but the game felt a little long, and it felt like there wasn't much I could do, and like I think the other players also felt that way. It was like not much they could do like controlling wise. Yeah, it made me want to play like a more coin pusher dexterity game or something. That seemed like it would be fun. But yeah, Voices in My Head was not a game that I want to play again. And then another game that my friend brought over was Hooky, which is a deduction word game, not cooperative. So in Hooky, it's kind of like a clue game or sleuth. There's 3 letters that you're trying to guess. And so like there's a deck of all of the letters in the alphabet. Everyone gets past some cards, and then there's 3 that everyone needs to guess. But the way turns work is you have to come up with a 5-letter word and ask someone like how many letters are used in that word. And you can do something like D-A-D-D-Y, and then if they have the D, they would be 3 times. So you can use like multiple letters to try to figure out more information. So it was interesting coming up with clues because you have to think of actual words, and then like for trying to figure out letters like X and J and stuff, it was hard to think of words that had those uncommon letters. At first it was like no one had any information, but then as the game went on, it goes 6 rounds, and so you end up getting a lot of information, and we actually got like all of the letters figured out, which is neat. For all the questions and answers, everyone also gets the same information, like you say out loud what the number is. So by the end of the game, it seemed like everyone had all of the information, which made it less about the deduction and who won, more about like the luck of what cards they started with. And like there is a possibility of revealing one of your cards and looking at someone else's cards, so randomly. So then there's luck in that too. So it was like who got lucky with that part would get the higher score, because if you guess earlier, you can get a higher score. But the deduction was fun, and coming up with the words was kind of hard, but it was interesting. And then the last game I'm going to talk about is another game my friend brought over. It's from Oink Games called Rafter 5. So this is a dexterity game where you're building a raft out of cards. So you have these meeple figures, and you're actually building on the back of the box. So you put cards, they're long cards that are representing planks of wood, and then you put the meeple figure on, and then you put one of your treasure chests on it. And so like it's going to hang off the box eventually, and cards are overlaying other cards. We've also played the advanced version where like parts of the cards are gaps or nails. You can't lay on top of that, but you have to lay on top of a card that's already there. You can't go on top of the nail and the gaps. Also, there's only 5 of the rafters, the meeple figures, and on your turn you have to pick up one of the rafters and then place it onto a new log card that you lay. So when you pick it up, the log that it was on could fall over, because like that was kind of helping you hold it down. And eventually like a bunch of treasure chests are going to fall off, and someone loses when they get a bunch of treasure chests that fall off. I think 5 of someone else's treasure chests. You fill up a little player board of treasure chests. So you're kind of trying to place your things precariously so they'll fall off when it's someone else's turn, and then eventually when on someone's turn it's gonna fall a lot. So it's kind of like a Jenga type game, but with a fancier table presence than Jenga. Alright, so that was the highlights of my month of February. Once again, if you want to know more about the other games that I played, you can check out our podcast, or you can chat with us on Discord. Thanks to our Ko-fi supporters for making this list of names possible. But let me know what games you played in February and liked, and make sure you hit the like button before you go. Thanks for watching Board Game Blitz. Bye!